Hi guys, it is Fightsci here with yet another video, and today we're going over the best fighter between 135 and 140, Teofimo, the Takeover, Lopez. Let's break him down. But first, let's start with his early life and amateur career. Teofimo Lopez was born to Honduran immigrants on July 30th, 1997 in Brooklyn, New York. Fun fact, his paternal grandfather was a Spaniard from Avila in Spain and immigrated shortly after the Second World War. Many people from Europe went to Brazil, if you know, you know, before settling in Honduras. With his father, Teofimo Lopez Sr., and his mom, he left to go to New York at the age of 5, settling in Brooklyn. They eventually relocated to Florida, where Lopez Sr. started training his son at the age of 6. Now for his amateur career. Now Lopez was pretty illustrious as an amateur, going 150 and 20 and qualifying for the Olympic trials. However, a guy named Carlos Balderas secured the United States sole lightweight entry into the tournament as AIBA's World Series of Boxing, amateur boxing. Something I'd actually be interested in sometime in the somewhat distant future. Not somewhat distant, but next 3 or 4 years I'd be interested in amateur boxing. But besides the point, this video isn't about me. He was able to qualify for the Honduran team since he's ethnically Honduran, and reached the finals of the Olympic qualifying tournament for the Americas to earn his place in Rio. Lopez also won the 2015 National Golden Gloves. Lopez competed in the men's lightweight event at the 2016 Summer Olympics representing Honduras, where he was defeated in the tournament by eventual silver medalist Sofane. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I'm not even going to try. But yeah, he was really fucking good as an amateur, as well as 2013 in Reno at lightweight. He won the bronze at the U.S. Youth National Championship. So very fucking decorated amateur. Now, time for the style breakdown. Now, Lopez has what I would call traditionally an American style. He will fight out of the Philly shell stance. I'm going to show you a few examples of him doing it. He's not the best Philly shell user, but he is the best Philly shell user at his respective weight classes, 135 to 140. He likes the up jab from the hip, a staple of Philly shell users. Parries away jab constantly, good jab defense. He likes the swivel jab, which is swivel jab is basically a jab that arcs. Has a good step back game. He loves the stab jab to the body. He literally does it in all of his fights to set up that overhand right. He's good at feinting the right hand and moving his head off the center line whilst he's doing so. He loves the check left hook. Very good at moving his head off the center line. His head movement is superb. He's good at using the shoulder block in Philly shell, which is one of the components to the Philly shell. Lopez is also good at throwing the gazelle hook, which is basically a hook you throw when you're launching off the back foot. It is a very high risk, high reward punch, because if you land, like how he did against Taylor, you're bound to rattle your opponent or even knock them out. At the very least, rattle them, knock them down, what have you. But it's also a high-risk punch because if you get caught mid-air, you could get knocked down yourself. It's like a 50-50 in terms of 50% good, 50% bad punch, but overall it's worked for him thus far. He does make a few mistakes, however. Mainly I see him leaning over the front foot too much, and he does back out in curved lines. Correction from my last Teofimo Lopez breakdown. He's not as bad as Ryan Garcia with it. I don't really think anybody's as bad as Ryan Garcia with it. But he does back out in curved lines. Those are 2 main mistakes I see him make. Now, this is only pertinent when it comes to southpaws, but his 2 best opponents are southpaws, both being first ballot Hall of Famers, Lomachenko and Josh Taylor. So this is important to mention. He's very good with the jab joust. Basically what jab joust is when you have two boxers that are in opposite stances battling for the lead hand and who's going to get the jab off first. Your lead hands are running into each other. It's basically like fencers where they're like, I don't know the exact word for it, but when they're sabers, or I don't know what they're called. Let's just call them swords. When their swords run into each other, when they're opposite stances as opposed to complementary stances. You know, it is tough, but Lopez is very, very good with it, I feel. He uses the L block very well, which is a block you use like, it's almost like a karate block, so to say. Slips to the outside very well. Uses his forearm to jam inside attacks from rougher opponents. He uses a jab feint, then blitzes some of his opponents. He uses a cross guard to block shots, something Philly shell fighters do very often. He uses probes to tighten the guard, the usual stuff, very good. Lopez loves the cross to the body, moves his head to the C-slot very well, which is basically like leaning like very far over one of your feet when you're flipping your head off the center line. He's good at loading up the front foot for the uppercut. Good at moving backwards, but also loading up the front foot, aka his lead hand, the left hook, which is his bread and butter punch. He likes the forward stance shift, which I've explained in the Better Be a video. You know, he comes forward and different stance and attacks out of that stance. He's also good at feinting the left hook. His angle changes are very good. Good shoulder control by Lopez from pivoting. Good lateral movement. He's good at feinting the right cross. Final thoughts. The sky's the limit for Lopez. After a seriously devastating fluke loss to George Kambosos fighting through an injury, Lopez proved all of his doubters wrong by dog-walking Josh Taylor. 3-1 in world title fights, with 2 out of those 3 wins being against Hall of Famers. Next 5-6 fights, I believe Lopez will have a serious case for being one himself. Fightsci signing out.